Rowdy Real Estate's anger, solutions, a lot of great stuff and a lot of great information. And to bring it all to you, here's Peter Buchsbaum.
How you doing today? Welcome to Real Estate Reality Radio, the most important hour of radio every Friday from 9 to 10 on WBCB 1490 AM. Thank you for joining Vince and me. For those of you who are not familiar with the show, I'm the guy with the bow tie and a bit of an attitude, and Vince is the always fun and affable best friend. Our show is dedicated to dispelling the myths associated with real estate and finance in your marketplace. Within every market, there are obstacles and solutions on the path to tremendous opportunities. Vince and I believe that most people are looking for practical advice. Please feel free to call 215-740-8999 or visit peterbuchsbaum.com. So last week we discussed short sales with Brian Meara. And Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back. Thanks.
If you would again tell everybody how to find you.
Well, I have two websites. My investing company is called Bormio Properties, so BORMIO properties.com. And then the other site that I created for my blog and the different things that I do promotional-wise, shortsalestallion.com. Kind of a funny name, but easy to remember.
No paying.
Or short-sighted.
Or not short-sighted on a short sale, right?
Yeah, short-sighted, short sale. They seem to go hand in hand. And you two guys are just more of a about function, or lack of.
Well, these new laws, assuming that they're actually going to be true, and actually be
exactly take place. Right.
Really
they were proposed, Brian.
Right. But that would be great. Can you imagine?
Really, seriously,
in theory,
30 days. What a concept.
Great.
The reality is, it's kind of interesting. A couple of things we wanted to talk about today. I know, how does foreclosure impact your credit? Is a short sale better? Is giving deed in lieu a good idea? My all-time favorite are banks being incompetent. And those are the things I think we really wanted to key on today. But Brian, if you would take a moment and really, I guess, foreclosure, how does it impact your credit, and why would I negotiate a short sale as opposed to just mailing the keys to the bank and saying see you?
Well, it's funny you say that. I know there's actually companies that are set up to teach people how to do these things. I think there is actually a website called justwalkaway.com, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll have to check
wow, that one got to check. That sounds great.
I really think that there is a site like that. I don't know if it's still up, but there was. But, the thing is, a lot of times people find themselves in these situations, and they have a problem, and for whatever reason, they're not able to pay their mortgage. And so they want to sell it, and then they find out something that they probably already know. They can't get enough to pay off what they owe, so they're upside down. So now you're behind on payments, and you're upside down. Well, that's the perfect candidate for a short sale.
Right.
And, people say all the time, well, I just don't care anymore. Well, they say that because they're going through, obviously, a really hard time, and it's emotional, and they're, losing their house. But the thing is this, and I like to tell people, you're a homeowner. And that's the dream of most Americans, to actually own a home. Homeownership.
Certainly was.
Well, it was, right. And they talk about this all the time, about the dream, the goal of homeownership. And you're losing this house now for whatever reason. But again, most people would like to become a homeowner again. And the difference being, if you have a foreclosure, and you guys in the mortgage industry know this better than me, if you have the foreclosure, it's going to be a lot longer. I heard 5 to 7 years to get a new mortgage. Whereas if you have a short sale, and even a bankruptcy, what is it, 2 years? 2 years out, FHA?
Yeah,
you get?
it's 2 years out from
2 years.
bankruptcy.
FHA on the back.
So do you want to rehabilitate yourself and become a homeowner and get your pride back in 2 years?
Yeah.
Or do you want to wait 7?
Right.
And that's a huge difference. And, in the middle of it, going through it, obviously, again, it's very stressful, it's very emotional, and people just have these sometimes I don't care attitude, and I think that's where a professional needs to step in and kind of show them the light and give them that hope that, yes, you're going through this now, but if you follow the right steps, and hopefully the bank works with you to get the short sale done, it's going to be better for you and your family in the future.
Yeah, you know what? I think you bring up a great point. I think a lot of people, now that it's been a couple of years since all this stuff started happening, a lot of the people that were frustrated and gave up, lost the house, smoke's cleared a little bit, frustrations have gone away, and now they're wishing they didn't do that.
Yeah.
They're wishing they had that opportunity to start all over again, and have held themselves back, and that's one of the big issues.
I read something the other day that a short sale does the same damage to your credit as a foreclosure. Is that correct?
Well, what I've seen, because I'm actually working with people now who did short sales with me a few years ago, and the thing is this, yes, it obviously hurts your credit because the entire time that you're not paying the mortgage, in the process of the short sale, you go from 30 days, 60, 90, and it just keeps going back. You're not paying that mortgage. But once, and again, it becomes a matter of having the short sale done properly. You don't just want to release a release of lien so you can sell the property and then still be responsible for the debt. But what we try to do, what we do in over 95% of the time, is get a satisfaction mortgage. So it's a satisfied account.
Gotcha.
And that's a big difference on your credit.
Yeah, you know what that does.
There's got to be perception to it. It looks like you're attempting to rectify a situation versus, walkaway.com means nothing.
Right, but the
Yeah.
problem with perception is, although you feel better about the fact that the world sees you in a different
Right.
light, does the credit world see you in a different
Probably.
light? These models are made by people that don't have.
But probably not, but you're probably further away from the dumper than you were if you attempted to do nothing.
And you know what the other thing is, Pete? I think it's
Yeah.
relative to how the banking department looks at things, because they do tend to shift their momentum as the market. When we, for instance,
Can't count on it.
prior to all the mortgage chaos, meaning all the no docs and 100% financing and negative loans, the mortgage arena was more like it is today. And then all of a sudden things lightened up. It got a little easier. And then when everything hit the fan, all the rules became imposed twice as hard. I have this weird feeling in my gut that eventually a couple of years will pass and they'll start opening up doors again. And
Well, there's no doubt. You and I have had the conversation,
Yeah.
and I think within the next 5 years, you'll have two different designations on your credit report. Short sale versus foreclosure. Short sales will be less time to get, because I think the idea is to promote the short sale is a better deal. The short sale is a better deal for the bank. So if the bank, again, speaking of incompetence, if the bank had a clue as to what they were doing, the short sale would be the first choice they have. Absolutely, unequivocally. We had
Dead money. That's
we
what
had
they're
Ralph
going
Friedman
for.
on the show, and I
Right,
thought it was
right.
really funny when he said, when he was head of Chase Savings, Federal Savings and Loan, that the bank examiners would come in and say, "Why'd you extend that guy's 30-year loan to a 40-year?" And he said, "Because I wanted to keep him in the house. That was our goal. Keep him in the house. Have a performing, obligation." And the bank examiners said, "That's not what we do. Get rid of him." He was like, "That's not." It's not what
Yeah.
federal savings and loans are all about. It's not what lending is all about. Lending is keeping them in the house. So
Give them the Jimmy Hoffa treatment. Just bury him, that's it.
it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So it's definitely, now deed in lieu is another facet, right? That's something else that people.
Well, a lot of the banks now, when when people are falling behind, they'll send them out that letter. And it's pretty much a form letter, a template, but it's giving them options. So saying, okay,
That's the Act 90, right?
yeah, you can do the short sale, you can do deed in lieu, all these different options, potential loan modification.
yeah,
Potential.
we know all about that. Yeah,
Key on potential.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
theoretical, more like.
But the deed in lieu is an interesting thing too, because statistically, from what I've been told, it's right up there with a foreclosure. Now, again, looking at the credit record, if you have the foreclosure, that's a judgment against you. It's on your record, and it's not coming off for 10 years.
That's a good point.
It's on
about the judgment aspect of it.
It's
Yeah.
just like a bankruptcy. You have your accounts, you have this, that, and the other. Your judgments. It's a judgment. You're going to have a foreclosure, which is going to negatively impact you for a long time.
Yep.
The short sale, remember that account. Once it's settled and satisfied, it's done. So that's when, again, assuming you can rehabilitate yourself and continue, or I should say maybe start paying your bills again,
Sure.
now that your expenses are lower, that's how, again, they allow you to get a house after 2 years. Deed in lieu is one very small step below foreclosure. It's basically, it's a voluntary surrender. It's a foreclosure. And most lenders consider it as bad. So I think it's a terrible idea to do a deed in lieu. For basically, why not give it a shot?
Right.
Why not at least try? Now, maybe your bank won't work with you. Maybe they want too much money to the point where a buyer won't come along, and we can't do the short sale. But isn't it better to try?
Absolutely.
That's the
We
way I
think
look
so.
at it,
Yeah.
right?
We think so, but that goes to the banker incompetence. I mean,
Right.
it's
They'll give you the Amelia Earhart, where you disappear, but then you're credited for 10 years. 10 years, you got the market pain.
it's.
Do you think they'll ever shorten the time window, Brian, to maybe 5 or 3 or something like that to sort of get you back
I
in
think
the
they're
game?
going to have to shortly, because I think what's going to happen, they're going to find nobody's buying houses 10 years from now
Yeah.
because everybody's got this, horrible problem with their credit. So things are going to have to change.
Call
I
it
get
purgatory
that.
then.
The Scarlet
It's called the
A.
apartment.
Scarlet A.
All right.
It's going to be. I can't. I believe that my house is worth less than I owe. I'm on time on my payments, but I want to move on. I want to get out of my house. I'm really unhappy. I call you. What happens?
I wasn't expecting that question.
No, I did that on purpose.
But it's
Brian.
good, and I'll tell you why. Because just to show you how far things have come and how things have changed in the past, let's say 3 years. There was a time 3 years ago when if someone wanted to move, let's just say, or they had to move, they were taking a new job, and they found out, oh no, I owe more than what I owe more than what I can sell the house for. I'm underwater. I'm negative equity, whatever you want to call it. Upside down, all these terms are the same thing. They would call the bank, get into customer service. Now, mind you, these people are current. They're not late.
Yep.
The bank's representatives were instructing them, there's nothing I can do.
Payment.
When you're late, why don't you stop paying, basically? And then let me know after you're a month late, call back and we can talk about options. They were telling people...
My mother in Florida, literally...
Don't pay your mortgage.
I was on the phone with the guy from Citi and Citibank, and I remember saying to him, what can we do? And he said, well, why would we do anything, Mr. Buchsbaum? Your mother hasn't missed a payment. I said,
we can't help you. You're not late.
We can work that out now if you'd like.
Right,
I mean, my mother's 86 years old. It's not like this woman's credit is vital. She's got a car with a 10-year warranty and doesn't buy green bananas. I mean, come on.
And the flip side on our end is mortgage people. One lateness on your mortgage, you're done for a year. We won't touch you for 1 year.
Well, here's the problem.
Lateness.
Man,
So
hard-hearted.
Yeah.
Come on.
What do you think happened after a while? And people started talking to their attorneys.
Yeah.
Well, you know why I went late? My bank told me to do it.
Yeah.
They started getting sued left and right, class action. I mean, all this stuff went down to the point where they will never tell you now if you call in to be late. They will say, if you could be current, upside down, need to move, call in, and what are they going to tell you? Here, we'll send out a package to review. The truth is that if you're not late, it's almost impossible. It's almost guaranteed they won't do the short sale. They won't tell you that. So that's just how it is.
Could
Now,
they intentionally hold it?
I don't
Make
know.
it late. I mean, like credit card, you pay your credit card, oh, you're late, and all of a sudden you find out that you sit
I
there.
have a whole new angle now,
You
Jim.
check.
I just heard that upset. See, when you don't want to pay your
you
rent
are now.
because
You painted me.
you don't want to pay
I'm on the
your
dark
rent
side with
because
you.
your landlord has done something wrong. You pay the money into an escrow account. See, I want to pay my mortgage payment into an escrow account because the only way I can get what I want is to be late. So I want to prove later I really had the money. It was your fault, not mine. So new
Well, it's kind of like, and I tell people all the time, I said, because then they get really mad and angry in the bank. I said, well, to play devil's advocate, if you will, what if you sold someone your car and they were making payments to you? And the car went down in value for whatever reason, a new model came out, whatever. And all of a sudden they approached you and they said, you know what? I know I'm still paying you, but let's just cut the balance down. Let's knock $3 grand off. Why? Well, it's worth less and I really want this other car. What would you say? You'd be like, no, because you're not being threatened.
Sure.
Now, if they stopped paying you and said they lost their job, or they're moving away and someone had cancer and it's a hardship, you may consider now, well, I can take this or I can get nothing.
Right.
And that's the mindset of the banks, that if you don't threaten them, so to speak, without paying them, they're probably not going to work.
They do the same thing on the modifications, too.
Yeah.
It's almost... They won't modify you if you've paid them a time.
And while I understand that, I wouldn't be happy if a guy came to me and said to me, hey, the car lost value, therefore I want to pay you less. When I lent that money, I'm not in the money lending business in that sense, but when I lent them money, I took a risk. Hence, I charged them a fee. If I'm charging a fee, I take a risk, I move on from there.
Right.
And for whatever reason, the banks look at it like, no, there is no risk.
Right.
Well, if there is no risk, then make my interest rate zero. I mean, what the heck? And it doesn't make sense to me. I understand it. I also understand from the standpoint, a lot of stuff we hear lately is, the guy next door says, that's not fair. I have to pay my mortgage payment. How come he's not paying his? The guy next door should be thrilled. The guy next door should be in heaven that this is all taking place because maybe he'll retain the value on his home if I don't go into foreclosure. Is that,
Well, statistically, you know this also, that if a home goes through auction, meaning that it is foreclosed upon and it's resold as a bank-owned property, they're getting much less for that house. I heard figures as high as 28-30%, depending on the market.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that is going to negatively impact home values for a community much worse than if they did the short sale.
Yeah.
So if someone...
So they're helping themselves by
and their
doing the
neighbors in the
short
whole
sales.
community,
Right.
I
The
mean,
bank is helping themselves.
everybody.
Absolutely. And yet it's almost impossible to get them to do it.
Well, it's a long road, and in my experience, it's 4 to 6 months. And again, like we talked about before, with these new, supposed regulations and these time frames, I mean, that would be great. I mean, in my opinion, that would be the best thing ever, because the faster you can clear through the inventory, the faster you can go through.
Absolutely.
Get people out, get people in, just keep the ball rolling, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
People talk about all the time the economy, the recovery, the recession, and everything. It's either jobs or it's the housing market. Well, they kind of go hand in hand.
Absolutely. There's no it's the housing market that started to fail, that created job issues, and we watched it unfold. I mean, and it's just amazing. Another issue I wanted to touch on was going back between foreclosure and short sale is time frame of recovery. Because again, you have a foreclosure, and I don't think a lot of people realize, all right, I walked out of my house, it's foreclosed on. That's really not official, and you're really not released from that liability until that house has been sold. In which case the short sale, it's sold, it's done. But we have people that walk out of their house a year later, their house hasn't been sold, and we look, from the banking perspective, well, your infraction began, or your release from your liability there was when that house sold. That's when the clock started ticking on your 4 years of, purgatory. Yeah, if you want to call it purgatory.
Well, that's what people are worried about. People are worried about that, what they call the deficiency judgment.
Sure.
Now, statistically, I heard that it's less than 2%, meaning it almost never happens. Now, obviously, we can't say never, but it's very rare.
Right.
Where a bank will actually pursue someone for a deficiency balance. So you owe 200, it end up selling for 150. Where there's the bank 850, they're coming after you for it.
Right.
Yes, it happens, but in the hundreds of deals that I've personally done, I've never had one.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't happen.
How
Now,
about the 1099?
well, that's a very. I'm glad you brought that up. Also, the 2007 Act that was passed to relieve people if it was a primary residence, and that's very complicated too, because if you took out a second mortgage, supposedly that money didn't apply, and it gets very hairy. But the concept was, you're not going. I believe it's 1099-C, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But basically, you don't have to be worrying about tax ramifications for your short sale. Now that expires on December 31st of this year.
Gotcha.
What was it called? The debt forgiveness relief?
I
Yeah,
think
something
something like that. Yeah.
But that's ready to expire, and we don't know if it's going to be extended, and that's
So-
even more the reason, if you have a problem, to get it done now.
Right. So for the people out there listening, they're basically going to be 1099 on any deficiencies.
Well, they could be. Not that they
could
will
be.
be. It's
Yeah.
right now, if it was a primary residence, you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
What the 1099 is, for those listening, and for Jimmy who's got that look in his eye that he gets, when we mention things like hemp and harp.
Wow.
The 1099, when you don't pay on a debt, the 1099 that you receive is basically you have to pay interest on the money you didn't pay back, or tax on the money you didn't
Here
pay
it is,
back.
right here. The Mortgage Forgiveness Debt Relief Act, basically, from 2007. That's one expired. Isn't it great just to pull something out of your pocket? It's
incredible.
See that?
Like a genie in your pocket.
Yep.
What's the name of that? Oh, there it is.
You're young, you know how to
By
use
the way,
these
that's
smart
Brian
phones.
using his
I don't.
phone.
Yeah.
That's what he pulled out of his pocket, everybody. So,
That's a piece of paper full up.
Phones are on.
Or something
That's what
else.
we do.
Yeah. I
We're in
can't.
real time here.
I
Phones
haven't-
are on. Everything's going on.
I
Yeah.
haven't figured out how to use my phone.
Yeah.
So, I have trouble answering. But yeah, you get taxed as though you receive that money as
Yeah.
income. So if you walk away $50,000 less, you're getting a tax bill for that $50,000.
Can you imagine? And at that 30%, you owe the government another $15,000.
Yeah.
You just lost
Because
your
I
house,
was
and
in
now you're.
such
Yeah.
I was in such
Yeah.
good shape to
Yeah.
begin with, right?
Here comes the tax lien. Here it comes.
Talk
Yeah,
about
if you
getting-
didn't have one already.
Talk about getting kicked when you're down. Huh?
Yeah, really, seriously.
It's
I remember the first time I filed for bankruptcy. I went to the bankruptcy attorney and said, I have to file for bankruptcy. He said, that'll be $1,500. Dude, if I had $1,500, I probably wouldn't file for bankruptcy, right? Does that make any fundamental sense? Man.
Where you ask him if you can put his feet in with the.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. That's it. Yeah, can you bill me for that? No,
Yeah.
That's great.
I can't even afford to pay attention.
That's,
Things up.
yeah, times get tough. So, okay. Again, I guess from the vantage point now, let's take it a different step. I can't afford to make my payment. I have to get out of my house. I don't know enough. I call you. What's the process? What takes place?
Well, it's actually pretty simple. What I would do is, if they called me direct, I would put them in touch with one of the realtors I work with and get the house list. The first thing you want to do in a short sale is you want to get your house on the market. And you're going to have to prepare a pretty big package for the bank. I mean, if they're going to consider a short sale for you, they're going to want to see everything. So they're going to want to see your pay stubs, your bank statements, your tax returns, your bar financial, which is a list of your debts, your assets, your income, etc. They're really want to see what's going on.
Because they did such a good time of underwriting
Exactly.
the first time when
Right.
they lent you the money. Right.
The hardship letter, you have to write a letter explaining exactly why you're in this predicament.
Right.
And and then once you have a contract and offer a buyer, you would then submit to the bank. And we have a little different model. We have an investor-based model where we would go in as the buyer to get the ball rolling.
Sure.
And sometimes we'll flip them, the dirty F word, when we can.
Yeah.
We do some rehabs if the house needs work. If we have a 90-day hold, we could get our crew in there and fix it up and then resell it. We'll hold it as a rental. So, I mean, again, an investor-based model, we have many different exit strategies to work the deal. But some of them, you put it on the market and it's in a great neighborhood and maybe it doesn't need work and you get a buyer right away. The problem with that is that, and again, getting back to the time frame, once you take that contract and send it into the bank, it goes into that black hole.
Yeah.
And you don't know if you're going to have an answer, meaning after they go through all the steps,
Yeah.
in 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months. And so your average buyer who
Can't wait that
they
long.
can't wait. They can't wait. So the realtor gets frustrated, the homeowner gets frustrated, the bank gets, everybody's getting frustrated because it takes too damn long.
Yeah.
Now, that's why I firmly believe that if they could really stick to these timelines, it would change everything. Things would be so much better.
Well, part of that problem, and I think we had that discussion last week while I was on the phone with you. Part of that problem, I hesitate to say this, Vince will be kicking me any moment now.
I was just gearing up to kick you.
Is
Good.
a realtor issue. I wouldn't take a short sale listing unless I knew that the bank wanted to sell that house, and where I had a pre-negotiated short sale, whatever. Maybe I'm calling it the wrong thing.
No, Pete.
But why would I want to ruin a buyer that I have as a real estate agent? I was a real estate agent for 17 years. The last thing I want to do is meet Jim and say, Jim, I got the house of your dreams. I show him the house, and the realtor says, it could be 6 to 9 months, Jim, before we hear what's going on.
But I think
with this.
realtors, I think, already know that. At least the people in here that we've had.
Well, they do
I
now,
think-
and
I
that's
think they
why.
know that.
Well, yeah, that's a huge point. That's why most buyers agents don't want to show short sales.
I don't blame them.
Would you?
You kill your buyer.
I mean, if I had a list of homes that met the criteria of my buyer, and I'm an agent now as well.
Yeah.
I don't perform as an agent anymore, but I still have my license. And I'm put it to you this way: you're looking at 5 homes. 2 of them are short sales. 3 of them are not. What are you going to show?
Oh, God.
What are you going to steer them towards? And by the way, for their own best interest, because you don't know if you'll ever get them that house or not.
Well, most people have a time
Yeah.
situation. Marie and I were looking at houses. We had to make a decision within the next 45 days as to what we were doing.
You better not look at a short sale.
we looked at a house that they didn't tell us was a short sale, right?
Yeah.
That was the best part.
Right.
So we're getting ready to make the offer. They go, well, we have to deliver that to the
Yeah.
bank. That could be a good 6 months. What did you put it
Yeah.
on the market for? It doesn't make sense.
Well, that's part of my model and why I believe we're so successful in our model. Going in as the buyer, that when we put our offer in as an investor, we call it pre-foreclosure investor buyout. We will go in with that offer. Obviously, the property's pending. We're the buyer.
Yeah.
Now, at whatever point we decide to remarket the property for a new buyer, whether to resell it to or release our interest to or what have you, the work with the bank is done.
Right.
So now when we put it active again, and
It's really active because you're
it's
the
really
decision
active,
maker.
correct? And we can put in the MLS bank-approved short sale. We know the price the bank wants. We know what they'll take, and it shortens that timeline. Where that's why we close 90% of our deals in my business, at least.
Brian, and you brought this up last week, and I've been playing your song like a trumpet this week to everybody because I think you've really hit the nail on the head with that approach. For the people listening out there that have never gotten involved with something like this, you cannot imagine the chaos, in that time frame. So to have an angle like this, which seems to be common sense, just never, I've never heard it come out of anybody's mouth beyond yours at this point, is unbelievably beneficial. Because
people raise a lot of issues too. They say, well, if you're not going to buy it, then you're really just a straw buyer. And whoa, let's back up. first of all, I don't know if I'm going to buy that house until the approval letter comes.
Right.
A, I don't know what price it's going to be. B, I don't know if I'm going to be restricted or not in the resale of it.
Yeah.
Some banks now are putting 120 days. Well, what if it only means paint and carpet? And you get your guys in there to clean it up and, maybe do a little bit of landscaping, and in 30 days you'd like to put it back on the market. Sorry, you're not allowed to do that.
Because it's
What
a
sense does that
capitalistic
make?
society, you're just
Yeah.
not allowed to make money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Money which would increase the economy and help the rest
You're
of the
putting
world.
contractors to work. They're going to go get a mortgage from someone like you. Title
Sure.
companies are going to make money. Home inspectors are going to make money.
Yeah.
They're going to go to Lowe's and buy things for their new home.
Absolutely.
If the house doesn't sell, none of that happens.
You have instinct and they have none. I mean,
Buying, selling, or investing. Listen to Real Estate Radio with Peter and Vince. Friday mornings from 9 to 10 right here on 1490 WBCB. Boots to asses.
The Rock.
little bonus there for you.
Yeah, I like
Real
that one,
estate.
Jimmy. I like that
Real
one.
Estate Radio continues. Pete, Vince, and Brian.
Brian, where can everybody get in touch with you again?
Again, I think two websites, bormioproperties.com, that's spelled BORMIO, properties.com, and the other one would be shortsalestallion.com. That's more of an opt-in where I work with other investors and realtors.
Sure.
I have a blog. I do basically weekly video updates, daily news updates
Wonderful.
and feeds, and I try and keep everyone in the loop, so to speak,
Right.
because things change literally every
Yeah,
day.
you had some great stuff. We watched it this week, and it was
Yeah,
very
different things.
informative,
We
which is
just
great.
rolled out an investor product to teach investors nationwide what I do, because again, we found that this model is so successful that I partnered up with a national attorney, someone who actually thinks just like us, who lobbies down in Congress and works with some key senators to try
He
and
could bring me down. I got a few people.
Yeah.
he's trying to change things and wake these people up, and it's a very uphill battle, obviously.
Yeah.
Jeff Watson is his name. But, we were talking on the break about the realtors and what is the advantage to them, specifically working with me. Well, that's a no-brainer. If I have a team of, 12, actually 14 negotiators full-time, and you are the listing agent, and you never have to talk to the bank.
That's a plus.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's huge,
Huge.
because
Yeah.
now you can focus on what you want to do, which is buy and sell homes, which is what realtors are supposed to do,
Sure.
and not be loss mitigators.
Yeah.
And how much do you charge? Well, I don't ever touch your commission. So basically, I'm working for you for free. Because we would buy and resell, we would get our negotiating fee, we get buy or release. I mean, there's probably 5 or 6 different ways in which we get paid, but it doesn't cost the buyer any extra money. We never charge dimes to the homeowner, and we never touch the realtor's commission.
Yeah.
So I don't know a better deal out there.
No, we've, the way you're doing it, what you're doing, how you're doing it, I have to tell you, we were thrilled to have you back this week. We think the message that's getting out there and what the effect that you're going to have and your approach is going to have on this marketplace is going to increase things in the positive for everybody.
And what's amazing is that I'm only one man.
Yeah.
I run one.
I was going to ask you, how the hell do you do all this
Well,
stuff?
but
So,
actually,
'cause,
if you think about it, though, from a nationwide perspective, we have, I believe, 81 deals we're working on right now, obviously with realtors. So 81 deals under contract, working with the banks.
Okay.
We close 5, 6, 7 every month. We're running them through the funnel. New ones come in, other ones go out. Some go to auction, unfortunately. We lose about 10%,
Yep.
which is not bad, by the way.
No, not at
I mean,
all.
the average realtor I heard closes around 34%. So they lose about 2/3. We lose 10%.
Yeah.
And again, for reasons out of our control, because if the bank doesn't discount enough, you can't get a buyer and the house doesn't sell.
Right.
So that being said, it sounds like a lot. Wow, you do 5 deals a month, you have 80. Yeah, and I work with a few dozen realtors. But here's the thing. Imagine how small that is. It's nothing
Comparatively to
compared
what's
to the
out
nation,
there, right?
the country.
Yeah.
So that's why we put out that product. That's a training product for $97, by the way.
Yeah.
To teach people what I do, and hopefully I'd like to duplicate myself around the country with other people. And
Sure.
we're putting on actually a training conference, I believe, in Las Vegas in the next few months.
That's a good
Pete and I will be there.
You'll be there. You're invited. You're invited.
Of course, with my wife Anne Marie. Absolutely.
Look at the west and southwest. I mean,
The
Nevada,
sand snakes, man.
Arizona.
Arizona, yeah, forget it.
Geez, they'd love it.
Yeah.
They'd love anything that could
We're working with
get the
some
ball
key-
rolling. a
Yep,
little bit.
key people in California, Las Vegas, and
Yeah.
we have some big things planned for this year. It's going to keep
That's
growing.
fantastic. Absolutely wonderful.
A better job that I can do and the realtor can do to let them know we're going to, it's going to be okay. We're going to help
Yeah.
you through this. If necessary, find them a rental, and then guess what? In 2 years, they're a homeowner again.
Absolutely.
And bringing someone full circle like that, I'm seeing that now from the time I got started, that I'm working with people now with the other realtors, and they are buying homes now.
Yeah.
And it's great to see that full circle.
And that's, you know what, that's the message we want to get out to our people, our listeners. Not only do we want to let them know that there's a way out, but there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And you have to just, you know, there's people out there like you, a lot of phenomenal realtors, two really good mortgage guys, you know, but there's light, and people need to stop putting the mail, you know, in the drawer, in the trash can.
Yeah, the focus.
Start the healing. I think I think that's a huge factor in the length of this whole debacle.
Yeah, the focus of our show has been dispelling myths. I mean, it's not the negative. Actually, what we're trying to hopefully do is get people that are hiding to not hide anymore.
Right.